You know, sometimes the scripture gets just a little bit on the personal side. Today it talked about that the Lord pours forth flames of fire. And if you and I lived in California, that probably would not be good news. Now, I do not think the psalmist meant, I don't think the psalmist meant that God sends fire. I just don't think that. You and I don't think that. The God that you and I serve is not that kind of God. Destruction is not his business. Creation is his business. So that when we talk about God being present in flames of fire, we're talking about that now you and I are going to be present with our brothers and sisters in California as they work to rebuild their lives. And this psalm gets really personal to those of us who live in Texas, because when it talks about the voice of the Lord thunders, and the Lord sends lightning, and the Lord sits enthroned on the flood. Well, we all know what that is. That's a good springtime Texas thunderstorm that they're talking about, rolling across the prairie. And we understand about that. Now, again, the psalmist is not saying, and you and I do not believe that God says, let's send a thunderstorm here or here or here. That's not how God works. God works in creation. But the psalmist says that even in the times of fire, even in the times of the thunderstorm, God is enthroned over all of creation. God is present with us in all those storms. Now, it is my sincere hope that this Thanksgiving week you do not have a firestorm anywhere. Please do not burn down the house cooking. You know the story of the woman who she had cooked the turkey and she opened the oven, used her oven mitts, took the turkey out, put the mitts together, put them in the oven, closed the oven. Unfortunately, she realized her mistake before the things caught on fire. So she ran for the oven to get them, and her sister was with her because it was Thanksgiving, and her sister said, wait, let me call the children. And the woman said, absolutely not. Do not call the children. I don't want them to know about it. And her sister said, no. You got to call your children because they need to know that you're doing this now so that in the days when you don't catch it, they'll say, oh, Mom always did it that way, don't they? Please do not put your oven mitts in the oven and set the place on fire. Please do not have any kind of firestorm where your house burns down. That is not the kind of storm that we're probably going to have at Thanksgiving, I hope. I also hope that we're not going to have the thunderstorm sort of Thanksgiving. The thunderstorm sort of storm that the scripture talks about. Certainly if the weatherman has anything to say about it, he doesn't think it's going to be. Now that's good news for me. You see, this afternoon, Kevin and I leave for Alamogordo, New Mexico, and that involves driving on Interstate 20. Now, I have been on Interstate 20 during a thunderstorm or two. I've been on Interstate 20 when the thunderstorm and the rain were so bad that the windshield wipers just couldn't keep up, and so I'd be creeping along about 35 miles an hour or something like that. And it's always astonished me how people in West Texas seem to think it's their God-given right to drive 70 miles an hour no matter what the conditions on the road are. I've always toyed with the idea of getting off and driving 35 miles an hour on the access road, but in West Texas, the access road's in a ditch. And if it's raining like that, I'm not going to want to be in the ditch, thank you very much. So I just stay in the right lane, and I drive 35 miles an hour, all these people passing me. So I'm hopeful we're not going to have that kind of storm for Thanksgiving. I've also been on Interstate 20 when it iced. Let me tell you, that is no fun. However, the last time there was an ice storm that I did I-20, Kevin and I can't remember where we would stay that night. We got up and inched our way up on the freeway, and lo and behold, everybody was going a nice, steady 35 miles an hour. I mean, everybody. We just sort of held our place in line, and nobody did any veering or anything. We got as far as this turn off the big spring. And evidently that's where the storm line had been, because the road improved. And sure enough, then the traffic picked back up to the God-given right of 70 miles an hour on the interstate. But what I discovered was that there were 2 sheriff's deputies who didn't taking the 2 lanes, driving at 35 miles an hour, forcing all the rest of us to behave ourselves. That was a good idea. I approved of that. But I don't think, at least I'm hoping, that we are not going to have that kind of storm during Thanksgiving week. My guess is, though, that most of us will not get through this week without some sort of storm or another. I hope it's not fire, and I hope it's not a thunderstorm or ice. But my guess is, holidays being what they are, and the expectations that we have of ourselves during the holidays, there's going to be a storm somewhere. Sometimes that storm looks like family. Oh, don't you laugh, you know I'm right. Let's face it, sometimes the storm in our life looks like family, especially at the holidays. You know, there's something about the holidays that we have this picture in our mind that needs to be just right. Just needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be in place. And so if we're the ones who are hosting, we run around the house, we try to get everything in place just right and perfect for the holiday. Or if we're the one visiting, we try to come in with whatever it was we were supposed to bring and make sure that it's just right and it's perfect for the holiday. And let's face it, friends, it never works out quite the way our imagination thinks it's going to. And sometimes the storm in a family looks like those who will not put their feet under the same table as some of their other relatives. And that makes the holidays painful instead of joyous. And that's a nasty kind of storm to have to face. There are a lot of our church members, and we've just gone through a list of some of them, who are facing a storm of health concerns. There are those who are now battling. I'm incredibly worried about Barbara Cunningham. But there are those who are struggling with the storm of health that will not do the way that God designed our bodies to work. God designed our bodies to work a certain way. And because you and I live in a broken, storm-filled world, sometimes they don't. And that provides a storm. And that comes along, and that picture of our holiday that's supposed to be perfect isn't going to happen. And sometimes the storm is the holiday itself. The expectations that get put on us for Thanksgiving and following that for Christmas are so tremendous that sometimes we just take on this incredible load of holiday guilt. And the storm is raging within us. I should have, I could have, why didn't I? And sometimes those storms rage like a fire, and sometimes those storms are like an ice or a thunderstorm. And the psalmist comes along and says, yeah, those are the storms. But the God of creation works through those storms. The God of creation sits enthroned on the flood. The God of creation sits enthroned over all. Whether there's been a fire, whether there's been flooding, whether there's the guilt that's causing turmoil in our soul, God sits enthroned on all of it. And then you get to the last 2 stanzas of the psalm. The next to last says, may God give his people strength. And I'm sure that during the week there are going to be some of us who utter that exact prayer, oh Lord, give me strength. But the parallel comes right after it. May the Lord bless his people with peace. And it's strange to think about strength and peace being equal with each other. And certainly some of us look at the week ahead and think, well, it's going to be anything but peaceful. And I think that's a misunderstanding of God's peace. When we talk about giving thanks, whether we give thanks to God or whether we're thanking someone else, part of the hard time we have giving thanks is that to give thanks means to acknowledge that somebody else has done something that either we didn't do or we couldn't do. To give thanks means somebody else has done something in a world where we say, oh, I want to do it all myself. And that's not going to happen. The people in California whose lives have been burned down to the ground are not going to be able to recover by themselves. Anyone who's ever been through a flood situation knows perfectly well, you don't clean up after a flood by yourself. The overpowering majority of us, if we're driving on ice and hit something, we are not going to get out and fix that bumper ourselves. Somebody else is going to have to do it. And it's the same way with all the rest of the storms of our lives. We're not going to fix the dynamics of a family by ourselves. We're not going to be able to pull off any kind of perfect holiday alone. And certainly, whatever the storm within our life, we can't fix those things by ourselves. We've got to trust in somebody. And at Thanksgiving, the reminder comes that we have got to trust God. That we have got to trust God, that God will do things that we can't. That God will give God's people strength. And that when God's people have strength, that's when God also gives them peace. I don't think you're going to have a perfect holiday. I'm sorry. I don't think I'm going to have a perfect holiday, and I'm sorry about that too. But you and I join together with the psalmist that in all those storms, God sits enthroned. And you and I join with the prayer of the psalmist. Oh God, give your people strength. Oh God, give your people peace. And then we say, thanks. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.